work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
We are September 24th, 2025. September 24th, 2025, and we have chaos. Now, if any of you watched Brandon House live last week, I warned you that I believe we are going to see a period of calm after the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then we would be right back into chaos. And to prove that I said that, I want to bring you this clip. And the reason I know this to be true is because I have studied brainwashing for 35 years, as you guys know. Brainwashed America Part 1, Brainwashed America Part 2, and soon we will finally finish up Brainwashed America Part 3. And we'll release that, Lord willing. But in those documentaries, I shared with you this idea of deliberate social sciences for manipulation. Chaos, then calm, then chaos, then calm. And I'm going to bring you some quotes and then bring on Leo Holman because we're back in the chaos with the killing of 2 migrants. Now, everybody was thinking, well, this is going to be some right-winger, so-called, that shoots 2 migrants because he's a racist and a bigot, etc. Because that's kind of what we were thinking. We got all these left-wing shooters. When is the right-wing shooter going to show up for their Hegelian dialectic process? Now, I know that's a big word, and I've used it a million times. Really got into speaking like that about 2005, 2006. It's also called the third way, because you have to have the conflict before you can have the third way, which is a mixture of left and right. And the majority of people in America have no idea about the Hegelian dialectic. And if you don't, then you don't understand anything that's going on. This is like basic 101. And I bet if you were to walk up to your average politician, your average talk show host in America, and ask them, what's the Hegelian dialectic process? They'd have no idea what you're talking about. Now, if you explained it, then they might say, oh, yeah. But that's just proving they only know it at a cursory level, that they're not students of it. The Jesuits know all about this. And the former Jesuit, Malachi Martin, in his book on the Jesuits, wrote that even one of the most liberal, communist, Marxist Jesuits admitted that the future for them in the Jesuit order was the Hegelian dialectic process. And it's everywhere. And it involves the deliberate pitting of one group against another. It goes in the area of economics, religion, politics, everywhere. But it's also a part of a broader social science project of manipulation to induce fear, to induce anger on both sides. And even those who don't have enough information to be induced with fear or anger, those in the middle are kind of like, they don't know what's going on. They just see these stories. It makes no sense to them. They don't really care. They're moving on with life. They turned off the news a long time ago. Even they are being caught in the middle because they hear these things, but they have no foundation for processing it. Whereas the people on the right and the left, to some degree, have processed the information. Now, whether they've processed it correctly or not is another question. People in the middle who don't even tune into this stuff are just sitting there waiting to be harvested by one side or the other. So not everyone is going to be induced with fear or anger because they're not invested. They long ago turned off the news and were participating in this experiment of America. But at some point, they will have to pick a side. But right now, we see the deliberate inducing of fear and anger on the right and the left, right and the left. And the chaos is necessary in order to create herd instincts. It's necessary in order to create mass suggestibility, to get people to accept ideas, thoughts, even solutions that they otherwise would not accept. And a lot of this, of course, comes from the Tavistock Institute. So with that, let me play for you the clip from last week on Brandon House Live, where I warned my listening friends to not be shocked if after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have some calm. And then chaos begins. Now, we really had Monday and Tuesday. In some ways, we had last week after the assassination. It wasn't very calm, was it? It was a lot of analysis, a lot of videos, a lot of people speculating, a lot of angst, a lot of sorrow. Sunday was a little bit of a healing for a lot of us, right? To see 100,000 people come together, to hear these presentations, hear the gospel presented. But even in that memorial service, you had some tension. Those who want to do something about this, and they use pretty strong language. Others who say, we want to forgive. Others saying, more aggressive things. Others saying more forgiving things. So there was even a little tension in some of the presentations. But overall, it was healing for many people. And so after Sunday, what was that, 7 hours of that memorial service? After that, most of us woke up on Monday morning thinking, okay, we've had a chance to heal to a degree, to have some calm. The service, the 7-hour memorial service was very good, very healing, very therapeutic in some ways. And now let's go on with trying to have a little bit of a normal week after the last 2 weeks. And you get Monday and you get Tuesday. And that's all the calm you got. And now Wednesday, we wake up to another sniper. This time, killing 2 immigrants. Now, we're told that the bullets had drawn on them anti-ICE. So why did the guy kill 2 migrants? Is he that bad of a shot? I don't know. I was kind of waiting. Is the fact that he didn't kill ICE officers tells me he's maybe not anti-ICE, he's anti-immigrant. And he killed these 2 immigrants, and now it's going to be a right-winger, and we're going to have the left shooter and then the right shooter this week. Well, apparently that's not turning out that way. Apparently it's at least the way they're going to frame it. This guy is a leftist as well. Now, don't be shocked at some point you don't see them come up with a right-wing shooter. But today, let's just focus on the fact that we had a couple days of calm, and now we're back into some chaos. Here's what I said the other night on Brandon House Live before we bring in some more quotes and Leo Holman. Watch this and listen to this. Most Americans have never heard of the Tavistock Institute, folks. But did you know that every one of us, I believe, has been subject to their brainwashing, their manipulation, their anxiety, and then calm, and then anxiety and crisis again? Isn't that what Rahm Emanuel said? You can't let a good crisis go to waste. Well, here is a friend of mine for a few decades, author, researcher, Dennis Cuddy, former Department of Education official for the Reagan administration. He writes, quote, John Rawlings Rees, would be a co-founder of the World Federation for Mental Health in 1948, was deputy director of Tavistock at this time. He would become director in 1932. I just gave you a quote by him, didn't I? Rees developed the Tavistock method, which induces and controls stress via what Rees called psychologically controlled environments. Remember that now. Psychologically controlled environments. To do what? In order to make people give up firmly held beliefs under peer pressure. How many of you have seen this? Did we not see this under COVID? You better mask up. And if you don't mask up, you're selfish. You're narcissistic. You better get the shot. If you don't get the shot, you don't care about your parents, your grandparents. Peer pressure. Peer pressure. Have we not seen people pushed into hating Donald Trump out of peer pressure? Have we not seen people pressured into becoming hostile to Jewish people out of peer pressure? We see peer pressure as being used constantly. Psychological stress. Dennis Cuddy went on to say, in 1945, the Rockefeller Foundation, their medical director, Alan Gregg, was touring various institutions that had been involved in war medicine to see if any group would commit to undertake the kind of social psychiatry that had been developed by the Army during wartime.
Watch Brandon Daly on
All right, there you go. And with that, I want to go to one of the psychiatrists at the Tavistock Institute. Here's a quote from psychiatrist Dr. William Sargent. This is in my brainwashing series, as you know. He explained this process in 1957 in a book, Battle for the Mind. He wrote, quote, its various group manifestations are sometimes classed under the heading of herd instincts and appear most spectacularly in wartime, during severe epidemics, and in all similar periods of common danger, which increase anxiety and so individual and mass suggestibility, end quote. There's a lot to unpack there. Let me do it as fast as I can. They studied the war, the impacts of war on soldiers, POWs. And they discovered that this ability to create herd instinct worked spectacularly during war, during severe epidemics, and in all common periods of so-called common danger, which does what? Increases anxiety. And when you have that anxiety, then you have mass suggestibility. Now, this is where you then pick your target, freeze it, and pulverize it. Isn't that what Solinsky said? So now they say during the crisis, who's to blame for all this? All your anxiety. What's the source of all suffering and oppression? Oh, let's go back to the old, tired cultural Marxist at the Frankfurt School who worked with the Tavistock guys. It's Christianity and capitalism. It's the white male, the patriarch male, the Christian. Wait a minute. Where's the left on this? Don't go away.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. All right, so We wake up today. Today we have another shooting. It's another sniper. What's with all these snipers? I went back today and I started studying the various snipers in American history. There are not that many. There are not that many. There are some, no doubt about it. Maybe later in the show I can bring some of those up and tell you about them. Some of you off the top of your head thinking about them, a few of them. The one I thought of immediately was the one in Austin, Texas, back in the late 60s. Former military guy got up there on that tower and started shooting people. I think he killed 13, 14 people or something, injured many others. Then you have the DC guy that was shooting out of the trunk of his car with another young guy. Remember that? You're just sniping people walking to their car from Home Depot. We've had a few others, but that's not a super common thing if you go back and you just put it in a search engine, snipers in America's history. More common is the church shooter, the school shooters. Why all of a sudden do we live in a sniper assassination culture? You might ask yourself that. Doesn't that induce the images of war? And isn't that what this is about? To create a war mentality? So you have a herd instinct, common danger, thus mass suggestibility, and now you implant who is the problem. The right thinks it's the left thinks it's the right, and now you got your conflict. Now you can offer up all kinds of suggestions. You can offer up all kinds of so-called solutions. Remember the Patriot Act? Psychiatrist Dr. William Sargent of the Tavistock Institute, back in that book in 1957, Battle for the Mind, said this as well, quote, various types of belief can be implanted in many people after brain function has been succinctly disturbed by accidental or deliberately induced fear or anger or excitement. Of the results caused by such disturbances, the most common one is temporarily impaired judgment and heightened suggestibility. And notice even today, apparently Hillary Clinton rushes out before the shooting, I think, even, or while it's still unfolding. And Hillary tells us on MSNBC today that the problem is the American white male conservative. Isn't this interesting? Joining me now to discuss all this is Leo Holman of leoholman.com. Leoholman.com, not to mention yesterday, President Trump put out, and we dealt with this last night, a Truth Social, basically saying Russia's a paper tiger. America will continue to give weapons to NATO. NATO can do it with them what they will, and Ukraine should not give up the fight. I think Russia is showing that they're a paper tiger, and Ukraine should keep fighting and take back all their land and maybe then some. What? Why are we going to provoke Putin? He gets back from Europe after talking to King Charlie. And this is where we're going. Joining me now is Leo Holman. Leo, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
All right. What are your thoughts on this morning's shooting? The Tavistock Institute induced fear, opens up for common danger, anxiety, mass suggestibility. What are your thoughts here? Because you and I was talking last week, we're going to have this moment of calm and then chaos. Calm and then chaos. As I explained last week, don't be shocked when more comes, because this is the Tavistock method to make us all feel like we live in a war zone, because that's how they can get the biggest shock and anxiety and then open up for mass suggestibility or so-called solutions that people otherwise would not accept. We are living in a massive psyop, but I would venture to guess only maybe, if we're lucky, 1% of the American population understand this. Your thoughts?
Absolutely, Brandon. And I want to congratulate you on a absolutely brilliant monologue. When you get that one put up online, I'm going to send it to my friends and family
Thank
because
you.
that really broke it down in simple terms that I think people can understand. And that's the challenge. A lot of people, not a lot, but you know what I mean? A lot of people in our business kind of understand what you were talking about. Not a lot, but enough, let's say. The problem is breaking it down in terms that the common person can understand. And that monologue was one of the few that I think bridged the gap there and brought it down to that level where I think almost any American could grasp. So yeah, do let me know when that one is put up online.
Thank you, Leo.
Because I want to grab it, but and share it. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same. But I'm glad you also brought up the Hillary Clinton comment today, because I think it was very instructive. When I saw that comment, I said, you wait. I saw it early this morning. I said, this is going to be widely broadcast across all conservative media. And sure enough, since that I first saw it a couple of hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago, I've gotten like 10 emails from different conservative influencers that send me stuff highlighting Hillary's comment about the white Christian male being the biggest threat to America. And I posted it myself on Telegram, and all I put as far as a comment was consider the timing. And then I posted the video of Hillary going on her rant against white Christian males. And immediately I got comment after comment on my Telegram saying, witch, demon possessed, Satan worshiper. And I couldn't help myself. I came back and I said, you people completely missed the point of why I post these things. I don't post them so that you can hate the left even more than you already do. I post them so that you can see the timing of this right-left back and forth paradigm.
Right. That's right.
We just had President Trump inflaming people on the left. During the Charlie Kirk funeral of all places, he laid out how it's not good enough for him to just refer to the left, which itself is a bit of a triggering point. He has to call them the radical lunatic left, and that he hates these people. And the whole emotional thing over the assassination of Charlie Kirk has been co-opted by a segment of the right, calling on us to rise up, organize, and in many cases, carry out arms. And we've had enough. And we must divide off from these people. National divorce. We can't live with these people. We are not part of them. It is the other. And the right is the left is doing the same thing towards us, saying we no longer have anything in common with these folks. Here's another example. President Trump and RFK Jr. came out the other day, Monday, just 2 days ago, with some very interesting information about Tylenol being taken by pregnant mothers and how that can cause autism and other complications. Even if you don't believe it causes autism, I think it should be pretty obvious that it's not good for a pregnant mother to use Tylenol. Tylenol itself came out with information 8 years ago warning against overuse among certain segments, one of which being pregnant mothers and young infants. So even the information wasn't even that novel or new, but it came from who? President Trump and RFK Jr. This is public enemy number one and number two right now among the leftists in this divided society in which we live. And so what do we find out this morning? There are leftist women on TikTok celebrating how they are pregnant and they're taking Tylenol. Now, if that doesn't illustrate how people are able to lose their minds in the current mind-controlled society that you laid out in your monologue, I don't know what is. There is no longer any commitment or allegiance to the truth or to facts. People's allegiance is to a team. They pick a team, and whatever the team says, depending where the information comes from. If it comes from your team, it must be correct. If it comes from the other team, it must be false. And by golly, I'm going to prove you false by taking something that's bad for me and my child, Tylenol, while I'm pregnant. I mean, it's unbelievable, Brandon. I never thought I would see a society this divided, this mind controlled. And when you're mind controlled and manipulated by your emotions and no longer have an allegiance to facts, just a team, you lose your mind. You become insane.
Indeed. Now thank you, Leo. Here is the audio clip and video of Hillary Clinton this morning. Okay. This goes back the right-left paradigm. So everybody's fighting at each other. Now, it's not that some of the people on the right aren't saying some things that are true, that people on the left, like Leo just explained. But what Leo's trying to say is, he's not saying don't speak truth. He's not saying that some of the things the people on the right say about the left's not true. What he's saying is you have to understand it in the bigger picture of what this does, particularly to the people that don't think, they only emote, right? And part of what we're seeing here is have we not talked here so many times about the dehumanization of each other and what it's going to do, right? And they do this to people until some wacko has been told over and over and over in this state of war, in this state of anxiety, that you are going to end up being ruled by a Nazi, a dictator, a tyrant, a Hitler-like individual. If you don't stand up now, you are going to be rounded up and exterminated and imprisoned. Have we not heard that on both the right and the left? And when you speak, and it does seem to come more from the left, in ways that are dehumanizing, calling moms at school board meetings domestic terrorists, Christians domestic terrorists, white Christian men a threat. When these things happen, and you do this to people in a state of chaos and fear and induced anxiety like wartime, you then open them up to suggestions that they otherwise would never accept, such as they must go out and take out their enemy because they're doing it for the preservation of humankind, of our country. And therefore, in war, are you listening, my friends? In a time of war, the rules are not the same as they are in a society, a civilized society of normal times. This is what they're being told. If you read through the lines, if you read through the emotion, this is what they're being told. We're at war. These are not normal times. We have to take actions that are actions that we normally never thought we would have to take. And all you have to do is have a few people that say, oh, wow, I must respond. Now that they've gotten them all up in anxiety, separating truth from fact, their life is at risk, they're in a war, you do what you do during a war, and you take out the enemy. That's where we're at. They're creating a war zone in the United States of America through this psychological process of anxiety, common danger, lack of reason, logic, and context, dehumanization. And because we're at war, you can take out your enemy to save your own life and that of your family and culture. We'll be right back.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. All right, before I go back to Leo, here is that clip this morning, interesting timing, by Hillary Clinton. Listen to this.
And I'm proud of the fact that we have always been a work in progress. You know, we haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. And people have been protesting, you know, for hundreds of years that, you know, things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, you know, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, it's just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfectly, lots of, you know, bumps along the way, but I agree with you. We were on the right trajectory.
All right. So white Christian men, everybody can read between the lines. White Christian men are the problem. And now, as we're in a wartime-induced environment that's been created to create the chaos, to create the anxiety, we dehumanize our fellow human being. And because we're in a state of war, as I said before the break, and because we're talking about your very life, it's now justifiable for the common good to do things that aren't normally done in a civil society because the rules have changed in a state and time of war. And therefore, you must eliminate any perceived existential threat and is now perceived as, quote, morally acceptable behavior because it serves the greater good. You're eliminating evil, your opponent, your enemy. Leo?
Absolutely. I was just thinking too, Brandon, as you were showing that clip, you're eliminating evil, as you said. That strikes in my heart the visions of the struggle sessions during the Chinese Cultural Revolution, where they would interrogate people and try to root out those who harbored old ideas, old customs, old cultures, and old feelings. And if you try to translate that into today's vernacular with modern technology, Brandon, you don't even really need a struggle session because everybody's ideas, thoughts, cultures, and ideologies are right there for all to be seen on their social media accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Hillary, when she comes out with a comment like that, all of the people on the right are now putting on social media. I just gave an example of it earlier on my own Telegram channel and blasting her. So the puppet masters who control, in my opinion, people on both the left and the right can now use a company like Palantir, a data gathering, data analysis company, to scan the internet in seconds and find out, okay, who's blasting Hillary now? Who blasted President Trump when he made his equally inflammatory comments at Charlie Kirk's funeral? And so they have a complete dossier on every single American who's ever voiced his or her opinion on a social media account. And at the right time, at the day of reckoning, everyone, like you said in your monologue, will have to choose a side. The thing is, with Palantir, the puppet masters already know what side you're going to choose. Even if you're not sure, they know.
Yep, they do. Look at this quote. Harry Overstreet, Department of Philosophy and Psychology at City College of New York. He wrote this in 1952 in his book, The Great Enterprise. Quote, in each of these, we can predict. See, there you go, there's the word predict. Leo just said it. In each of these, we can predict that the individual will respond with trigger quickness and in exactly the same way. Sometimes it appears such persons have constellation of prejudiced areas. A man, for example, may be angrily against race equality, public housing, the TVA, financial and technical aid to backward countries, organized labor, and the preaching of social rather than salvational religion, end quote. What he's talking about is the conservative Christian is mentally unstable, they're triggered, and we can predict exactly how they're going to respond. So we set up narratives to trigger them so we can get them to respond, and then we can say, you see, they're racist, they're bigots, they're backwards. Now, don't think that they don't know how to trigger the left the same way to get the predicted behavioral pattern they want. And again, I'm warning you, and mark it down in the control room, the date, the time, in this recording, in this live broadcast, because I'm telling you now, it is only a matter of time before we see a sniper shooter, someone do something very violent on the right. Whether true or staged, that will be the message. It has to happen. It has to come to pass because we know from the evidence we are in a gigantic psychological operation. Therefore, the only natural trend next would be whether it's more leftist crime and violence or it goes right to the right. Doesn't matter in regards to whether we see a little bit more on the left. But at some point, you're going to see it happen on the right because it has to have that Hegelian dialectic conflict that causes the country to war with each other to create the chaos and the instability for whatever it is they want. Now, I don't know if it's they want us warring with each other so that they can then send us into World War III, and the country is so consumed fighting each other that it makes us easily conquered as a nation, or it's the fighting with each other and the hatred and the violence added to the number of illegals here and the terrorists here who do their thing, that finally people cry out for solutions, for going to the norm. Remember the KGB guy, Yuri Bezmenov? Demoralize, destabilize, chaos, the new norm. What's the new norm? The new norm is a great reset. The new norm is a socialist society, but since we're not maybe going to go directly to that, the new norm will likely be in today's world versus 1984, during the Cold Wars he was talking. The new norm may be technocracy. Now we can track everyone, we can control everyone, and we can penalize the extremists on both sides. And can I tell you something, friends?
And not only that, Brandon, we can do it before they act.
Yes, because
we're going to be able to predict the next big mass shooting, the next big terrorist act, and we will keep you all safe. Just make sure you sign up with your digital ID so that we can secure this country and guarantee your safety.
That's right. The algorithms will be picking this up in real time.
This is Minority Report stuff. This is 100%. Where they're heading, Department of Pre-Crime.
And what's interesting, and I don't know whether you agree with me or not, Leo, there is a lot of the country that I would say that is not right nor left. There's a big chunk of the country. I can't classify the numbers, but there's a big chunk of the country that's just in the middle. They don't care. Agree. They don't think about it, whether they're the left or the right. They've checked out. There's no solutions. Many are just fighting to put food on the table, survive. They don't have time for all the noise, right? I have friends of mine that are very conservative, staunch Christians. They get their information from talk radio, and they think they're informed. And maybe they are more informed than the average American who's completely checked out. but they're not that much more informed because they're missing the context. And that's what's wrong with most of the people that are so-called Christians, evangelical Christians, conservatives, MAGA. They're listening to talk radio. And I can just tell you right now that a lot of talk radio and talk TV is run by the same companies that run the stuff on the left. It's the same big corporations. And those guys know if they want to keep their shows and their contracts, they know where the lines are because they've been told where the line is. And so most of the people in the conservative world, so-called, know various things, but they have no context for it. They have no way, as this audience does, of looking at these issues and saying, I know what the Hegelian dialectic process is. I know about the stages for chaos. I know these things because I've been listening to programming and reading that gives me reason, logic, and context. Where your friends you talk to who devour talk radio, you're like, they know stuff, but they don't understand why. And many of them don't even know some stuff going on. Because do you really think talk radio, most of talk radio and TV is going to tell you about the butcher from Syria that just came to the United Nations and he's slaughtering Christians in the Middle East? Most of talk radio and talk TV is not telling you that today. Is most of talk TV and radio telling you about stable coins and all these people that are making billions of dollars on stable coins? They don't even understand what those are. Do they understand data centers? Right. That your electricity bill is spiking because of data centers? Or are they going to blame it on the left and the left blames it on the right, but they never tell you why? Or do they know that these stable coins, many of those people that have these billions of dollars running in by treasuries, which are pretty safe, give a small return, but how much return do you need when you're talking about that sum of money? And they're very liquid. And that at some point, there's going to be a crisis in those stable coins. And I'm sorry, but the government's not going to bail that out like they do the FDIC. And you're going to have a lot of Americans lose untold numbers of money. Now, do you think talk radio and talk TV gets into all of these issues and more that we do here? No, because they are controlled. You really think Sean Hannity can actually understand half of what we talk about? Come on. Do you think he'd be allowed to talk about half of what we talk about? No, because this is a captured thing. And then you have so-called patriots on the other side that want to tell you how we are winning, that our posse is winning, and we just got to keep punching through. It's all emotionalism. And then not only do we bring you the context and the reason and the history, as we've done today, we then bring in the biblical answers. And for this reason, most of the people you guys hang around, and you know this, they don't have a clue what we're talking about, but they pride themselves in being informed talk radio viewers and listeners, and then they don't have a biblical answer, which is ultimately the priority. We're going to have Leo comment. Phone lines are open. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. And then President Trump basically declares war on Russia.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. Okay, before folks get on the phone lines here, while you're getting on the phone lines, Leo, quickly respond to that, and then we're going to go right to the phone lines.
Yeah, I loved what you said about the biblical solutions. You know, what did Jesus say? That he warned us that we would be living in a time, if we live in the last days, of extreme deception, okay? Extreme, like the world has never seen before. And so you have to pray for, number one, pray for discernment, right? Number two is you can't let these talking influencers on the right and the left get inside your mind. You have to stop visualizing and seeing the world through the left-right lens.
Yep.
Jesus said to love your enemies and pray for those who despitefully use you. Now, that's a hard challenge, but I think it is the correct challenge for today's environment. If you don't do that, you're going to get swept into one of these so-called sides in the left-right paradigm, and you're going to end up, you know, Jesus also said those who live by the sword die by the sword. And I believe that's the environment that we're heading into, or at least that the globalists want us to head into. If they are successful, I predict, Brannon, we are not that far away. Well, in some ways, it's already happening. Americans killing Americans just at unprecedented levels, blood in the streets. That is the type of environment that they're driving us into. They want us in a civil war here at home. At the same time, they drive us towards World War III on the global front.
Amen. I agree with you. And Leo, I will say this, that I need to get with Mark Mitchell, and I need to try to figure out what percentage of Americans are on the right, what percentage are on the left, and then what percentage are in the middle who have basically checked out. They're not political. They don't really think about most of these things. Yes, they have some left or right ideas on certain things, but for the most part, they've checked out. Because for this to fully work, the herding of everybody into technocracy, the majority have to be for it. And I think that the play right now is to get the right and the left fighting for multiple reasons. But one is so that the vast majority of Americans that actually, I think, in some ways outnumber the right and the left, the vast majority of Americans will accept technocracy in order to deal with the extremists, as we've been told, on both the right and the left. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense, Brandon. I really think you're onto something there. Correct. Absolutely.
Let's go to Brad, line one. Hi, Brad. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Brandon. Tell you, there must be still a lot of Christians still around. Look at all the stuff that's been going on lately. We had the COVID-19 lie, the mask lie, the vaccine lie, the 2020 election was legit lie, and now assassinations. The left has been responsible for the assassinations, and that goes way back. Even in 63, they killed one of their own in 63 with JFK, and the left is still around. And the Christians and they're still evil, and the Christians and the conservatives are still right, because Christians and conservatives still have self-control. And we're not going off the deep end. Look at these stars in the sky as far as people go. You got this Ilhan Omar, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Gavin Newsom. All of them are unhinged and out of control, doing things that are just stupid, saying things that are stupid, and breaking the law.
Yep, and I'll tell you something, Brad, tonight you're not going to believe what we're discussing on Brannon House, that Gavin Newsom is about to sign and another piece of legislation he's working on, and what he just said last night on the couch of one of the late night shows. It fits with everything you're saying, Brad. I hope you can tune in and listen. Always love it when you call in.
We'll be watching it.
Thank you, Brad.
We just have to remain self-controlled and remember that we're never going to be in the majority.
No.
But Jesus said most people are not going to be saved.
That's right. Narrows the way and few who find it. Broad is the path
Can I
to destruction.
respond to him real quick?
Real quick, because I got to get to Jim and Christine.
Yes. Like he said, the Christian right in particular has a great amount of self-control. That's why they need a company like Palantir so they can round us up, not based on anything we've done, because we are not a violent people, but by what they think we might do,
or
based
by what
on
we
their
say. Or by what we say, which is what they're already doing in Europe. They're rounding up their conservative citizens on what they say, and what they're saying is truth about Islam, communism, tyranny. They're rounding them up on what they say. Because we don't take the bait on the violent thing, they have to criminalize our speech and then arrest us for that. Let's go to Jim 100%. And Joplin. Jim, line one. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, great show today, Brandon. And you called it, as usual, brother, that this was going to happen. But I wanted to throw this out real quick because I wasn't sure if you had seen it yet. As well, something else happened this morning. Apparently, somebody has opened fire close to a Air Force base in the Area 51 region.
Really?
In Nevada.
Really?
Yes.
Well, thank you for alerting me to that.
Anybody's in, but it confirmed that somebody had opened fire with a weapon there.
Interesting. Well, thank you for letting me know about that. I'm looking it up right now. Well, yep, there we go. Gunman opens fire from outside of an air base in Nevada, linked to Area 51. There it is right there. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Christine. Christine, thanks for calling in, Christine.
Hi. I just want to ask you very, very kindly if there's any way that Leo or somebody can go on like this clown Fuentes and Alex Jones, because they do not understand the Hegelian dialectic, and the whole reality is that 95% everything is the Jews. That's their only answer to stuff. Although they're not blaming the shooting of Charlie, not that they're not getting that nonsense pushed, but they have at least clapped back on that. But I wish you guys could go and educate some people, because you're right. And then half of the Christians, way more than half, just want to keep their heads in the sand. They're told to. Just don't even think. Don't think.
Well, thank you. We haven't been invited in those shows. I'd have to really seriously consider, because I don't want to line myself in any way or invite people to listen to those shows by my going on one of them, because I just have a really hard time with a lot of it that they're saying. But I would say pray that more and more people will distribute our broadcasts, right? We'll to tell people about VCY, Worldview Tube. Logan said yesterday, we're seeing now, on Monday, he said we've seen some of the highest radio numbers online we have ever seen. I don't know why, other than maybe people are realizing we got to find an outlet that isn't just addressing stuff from right, left. This guy will bring in the Bible and deep worldview analysis. I don't know. I pray that's it. But he said Monday we had radio numbers higher than we've ever had. LeoHolman.com. We didn't have time to get to Donald Trump poking the bear, but it's on our website, worldviewtube.com. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. Take care. Now, for WROS and for Worldview Tube, let's keep going for another 6-7 minutes, and let's bring Leo back, and let's do that. Let's talk about the Truth Social by President Trump that we dealt with last night. That was really shocking. Again, you want to talk about idea, opposite idea, idea, opposite idea. Peace, no war. Peace, no war. Don't fund, yes, fund. Pull the rug out from under NATO. No, we're going to send more weapons to NATO. Does he realize, that the president's flip-flopping so much here, back and forth, that he's actually himself creating a Hegelian dialectic by contradicting himself from one week to the next, sometimes one day to the next. So he's at the UN bragging, I've stopped 7 wars, while he puts on social media, basically declaring, why doesn't Ukraine go all in on war and actually take the land back they lost and take more? I mean, Leo, it's like we're living in an alternate universe.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm sitting in the Kremlin this morning, I'm going over that statement still, 12 hours later or more, probably about 20 hours later now, and scratching my head and saying, is this a declaration of war from the United States of American government against the people of Russia? Because it kind of sounds that way. Would you when you talk about Russia's economies imploding and Ukraine has the ability now to win back all of their original territory and then take some from Russia, and that Russia is not a real military power. If it was, it would have taken Ukraine in a week. These are all very, very inflammatory statements meant to elicit some sort of response from Russia. I'm not sure what they're expecting. Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of, he's currently on the National Security Council of Vladimir Putin, came out this morning and said that, Donald Trump is emotionally unstable. He's flip-flopping all over the place. We don't know which part of him we should take seriously. And so it's a very, very volatile environment. It's almost like you said that he's creating a Hegelian dialectic within a dialectic, Brandon. And this can only lead to greater global instability, confusion, volatility. And I'm afraid it's escalating by the day now. We can only thank God that the Kremlin is not as emotionally volatile and unpredictable as Washington is right now. Because if Vladimir Putin was half as unstable as what we're seeing coming out of the White House, we would already be in full-on, all-out World War III.
And I just don't know. Does he not realize the things he puts out and the things he sometimes says that he's playing right into the hands of the left who say that he's not stable? I mean, even my wife, who's very long-suffering and likes the president, like I do, like him in a lot of ways. But my wife, is like I think a lot of conservative women, they get a little protective of him because they feel like he's been royally abused. And particularly women with a certain personality that tend to be really long-suffering and kind, like my wife, they don't like it when they see someone being bullied, right? And that's the way she saw him. And so she gives him a lot of grace. But even she lately is saying, why does he say that? Why does he say that? Now she's concerned about his image. She's like, does he not know that doesn't help him? Does he not know that he's hurting himself? So that same kind of thing where, hey, people want to protect him. They feel bad for him, that he's been bullied, he's been mistreated, his family's been attacked, all they've done to him. There's a certain conservative, and a lot of more women, that have a certain personality and graciousness about them and have a high level of justice in them, meaning they don't like injustice. And so they tended to be very defensive of him or to cut him a lot of slack. Now some of them are concerned he's only hurting himself. Does this make sense to you, Leo?
It does. And put on top of that, your wife has a 22-year-old son. I think any woman, especially who has a son of military age in the United States, is listening to some of these comments and scratching their head and saying, wait a minute, he's directing these comments at the leader of a country that has the world's largest and most sophisticated arsenal of nuclear weapons and hypersonic Oreshnik missiles to deliver them. I mean, even if you believed everything evil about the Russian leader and that it's the former Soviet empire and he's trying to reassemble the old Soviet empire, as Mikey Pence says, and by the way, that's another indicator of how outlandish President Trump's flip-flop is on Ukraine. Mike Pence came out within hours and congratulated him on that statement.
Well, then that should tell you that
so did Lindsey Graham.
That should tell you you're doing something wrong.
When Lindsey Graham and Mike Pence congratulate you on how tough you are on Vladimir Putin, that should be a huge indicator.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely insane. American leaders never treated the old Soviet, Brezhnev.
LeoHolman.com. LeoHolman.
They didn't make these statements.
.com. Take care.